All right, we're live. All right, posted up with Boss Claus, episode 8. Today I'm here with very, very special guest indeed. A legendary figure in the NBA, NCAA basketball, and Los Angeles basketball as well, Mr. Marques Johnson. Good,
What's up, man?
good afternoon, sir, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I got a small following. I'm only like 400 strong because I just got started with this.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
gonna allow it to grow organically. You know what I mean? And then later
Oh
on,
yeah.
we'll see how well things go with it. But again, thank you very much. Um, it's an honor and privilege to have you, man. You know, we go back to the '90s, to early '90s when I was in AAU playing with and against Chris.
Yes, sir.
You know,
It's funny, Keith. The first time I saw you was at Montclair Prep High School, and
yeah,
that's where Chris had actually went to school there for a couple of years before transferring to Crenshaw. But it was some kind. I think it was an ARC, Rich Goldberg, or something going on out there, and you were walking around, and the rumor had it was that you were Kareem's son, and Kareem Jr. was actually around you guys' age too,
yeah,
and so or I think the rumor was that Kareem's son was going to be playing. And then I saw you, and I was like, well, yeah, that's got to be Kareem's son. I mean, I know you get that all the time, but just
yeah,
facially and obviously with the height. And then they tell me, no, that's not him. His son is a 6'5" kid over there. I was like, oh, wow, okay.
yeah. Junior was substantially shorter than me.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
it's
yep.
funny because at the West Coast All Star Camp that the Pumps hosted at Dominguez, it was
Okay,
summer of '92 or '93. You know, the campers, the other players were running up to me and asking me if I was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Jr., asking me for my autograph. I kept
sure.
telling them,
Yep.
no, I'm not. You know, remember, Kareem had the edges shaved off and then the curly mushroom top, Kareem
Right,
Jr.
right,
So yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was walking through campus together, you know, just talking. And a bunch of players run up again. Of course, they run up to me. Oh man, you Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's son. You Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's son. And I said, no, man, I'm not. This is Kareem. And I turned, and Junior took off in the other direction.
he didn't want he didn't want the smoke. he
Nah,
didn't want
he
none of
ain't
he
want
didn't
none
want
of
none
it.
of
He ain't want
that.
none of it. So he took off on me, man.
Oh,
Just left me there hanging by
yeah,
myself,
yeah. He's a
trying to
good dude. Good,
explain.
he's a good dude. Good young man. I mean, both you guys are, but yeah, he's a really, really good, mellow, kind of chill. I mean, I love Kareem Jr. He's always good to be around. Good energy. Good
Yeah,
positive
yeah,
energy to be
yeah.
around.
Great energy. Yeah,
Yep.
Kareem's definitely got great energy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're gonna take it back, man. You know, get some background on you. I know you're born in Louisiana, right? Correct?
Yeah, I was born in the northwest part of Louisiana, where there's some great basketball players from that area. Keith, starting with Bill Russell out of Monroe, Louisiana, before he moved to San Francisco and started USF. But then Elvin Hayes and Carl Malone and Calvin Nat and Mike Sanders. You remember Mike Sanders from
Yeah,
UCLA, 6'6" center, but he's from that area. I think DeRitter or somewhere like that. But it's just a lot of good ballers, man, from that area. I think I want to say Don Chaney. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he's from Louisiana. I'm not sure if that northwest section. But and then to put things in full circle. So my dad was a high school basketball coach at Natchitoches Central High School. I was born in Natchitoches, Louisiana. So my dad was a high school coach there in the late 50s, early 60s. A really successful coach, run into a lot of players, old dudes today at the 24-hour fitness down near Southwest Junior College off of Crenshaw and 120th. But anyway, running into some dudes there that played for him, and they tell me some of the stuff he was doing was way before its time. But the point is that my dad coached at the same school where Joe Dumars went to school years later. So back on a trip to Louisiana, I think my dad had coached Joe's high school coach or something, or the high school principal. So they reached out to us. I was an NBA All Star at that time and asked me if I could speak at the Central Natchitoches Central banquet that night. So I came over, said a few words, but I met this young, big headed brother, about 6'3", 6'4". They're like, this is Joe Dumars. He's going to McNeese State. He's a really good ball player. And I didn't think much of it, but I did kind of put that as we do filed it away in the computer banks and just kind of kept abreast of him from afar. And he had a great career and obviously Hall of Famer and doing what he's doing now. So, but I had the pleasure of speaking at, and we see each other today. And he always brings it up. I don't bring it up. Yeah, I remember you came and spoke at my high school banquet, man. I met you. That was like one of the biggest basketball thrills at that time. I think you were the first NBA guy I met. So yeah, it's a long way from Natchitoches, man, but that's where it all started.
Right on, right on. So later on, you transitioned over to playing at Crenshaw High School.
Right.
And Crenshaw has a steep history in LA basketball, West Coast basketball. If I'm not mistaken, you played for Coach Willie West.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man. I let another. It seems like this word gets tossed around a lot. The word legend, but it's applicable to certain people, and it's certainly applicable to Coach West.
Yeah, no, without question. And so here's the history with that. So Coach West actually taught middle school, junior high school, we called it back in those days, at John Muir Junior High School in South Central, near Manual Arts High School, right off of Vermont, near whatever that is, King Boulevard. But anyway, he taught junior high school with my dad, who was a shop teacher, and my mother, who was the librarian. And then my aunt was also over there, Alma Johnson. They were all on this bowling team together, Keith. So I would look at, I was a big stats freak back in those days, 9, 10. I was like 1966, 67. So I'm 10 years old, but I would look at the green mimeographs printout and see all the bowling scores that my father and mother would put up. I'd see Willie West on there, Miss Boykins, all these names. So I was familiar with the name from the time I was about 10 or 11 years old. And then Coach West got the head coaching job at Crenshaw. Crenshaw was built in 1968. He started out over there as the B and C coach, which would be comparable to Frost soft kind of basketball today. He's coached the B's and the C's, had a lot of success. And then the head coach, Jim Ryan, moved over to Cal State LA, and they bumped Coach West up to coach the varsity in 1971, his first year. He messes around, Keith, and wins a city championship his first year. First year he wins city. And had some really good players. Melvin Arterberry, who went on to Stanford. Kurt Stokes went on to Washington. My favorite player on that team, Donnie Aaron, who was I think a nephew or cousin to Hank Aaron, went on and played, I think, back east at Howard. But he was first team All-City, Donnie Aaron was. So they beat Jefferson High School, very, very solid program. Larry Hansen was the coach at then Jordan High School in the city championship game. So that was the first year. I transferred over to Crenshaw from Dorsey my junior year. Now, at Dorsey, we had a couple of guys that were really good. One guy, Greg Griffin, played with us in the summer. He wound up playing in the NBA, played at Idaho State. They beat us my senior year at UCLA, as a matter of fact. But we had a guy named Tex Walker who played with me in middle school at Audubon, who played at UCSB, really good player, 6'6", sophomore, all-league, all-city, junior and senior. Then Larry Jackson was another guy at Dorsey, 6'8", 6'9" shooter that wound up at Washington, had a really solid college career. So we had a powerhouse at Dorsey, but because my dad knew Coach West, because Coach West had so much success his first year, and back in those days, you didn't have the internet and all that stuff. So my dad really wasn't aware that Coach West had gotten the head coaching job. And so as it happened, Keith, he after my sophomore year at Dorsey, I played JV most of the year. I was 14 years old. You had to be 15 to play varsity. So I played JV, averaged about 25 a game. They moved me up to varsity, even though I was still 14 the last 2 games. I had like 10 points each game against Jefferson and Washington. But my dad said, "You're going to Crenshaw." And my mother was like, "Oh, I don't want him to go to Crenshaw. It's too rowdy over there, blah, blah, blah." And so my dad was like, "Well, that's where he's going." And so my mother was like, "Well, if he goes to Crenshaw, I'm not going to any games." So my dad was like, well, we'll tell you the score. I'll tell you how he does, because he's going to Crenshaw. So my dad brings me up to Crenshaw here, but this is the gist of the story. He brings me up to Crenshaw on for their Tuesday night league, which they still have going on. Ed Waters is the head coach, son of Maxine Waters. He's the head coach over there now. We played together since 7th grade, played together in Crenshaw. And so he brought me up there for Tuesday night league. And I'm a little nervous. These guys are coming off a city championship. I don't know anybody. I go in the gym. And Coach West comes up to me and is like, my dad's like, "Yeah, I want to bring him over here, check him out, see what you think." So Coach West's like, "All right, he can play this next game. I'm a guard him." And so Coach West, all of them about 5'10", 5'11", Keith, but solid, athletic in those days, 31, 32 years old, could dunk, big, strong legs. He's talking trash. Yeah, this ain't Dorsey. This ain't Dorsey. Don't try and go for no rebound. Okay, yeah, we don't see how tough you are. Yeah, we don't play it over here. This ain't Dorsey. This ain't Dorsey. And so he was up in my face, and I'm just shell shocked because this little, he's intimidating me. He's talking, but on the final play, our guard Reggie Mims, I think, drove and missed a shot. I got by Coach West and went in and tip dunked. Then he told my dad, "Yeah, I think I could use him." So that's how I wound up at Crenshaw. And we didn't lose a game in 2 years. Didn't lose a game in 2 years. City champions, and it was just a great move on my father's part. Let me put it that way, to have the foresight to see what I needed at that point in time. A young black role model, mentor, and Coach West, who would put in as much work as you were willing to put in. He was one of those guys. As much time you want to be at the gym, he's going to be at the gym. He's going to meet you at the gym. And I really give him a lot of credit for not only my development on the court, but just in terms of toughness and the intellect in terms of a basketball player. He provided all that, man. We were running the triple post offense back in 1971, the triangle. He went to a clinic, saw Tex Winters at a clinic. Tex Winters was a good friend of his in the coaching world. Saw Coach Winters run the triple post. He came back and put that in at Crenshaw back in 1971, 72. So way ahead of his time, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I think 16 city championships, 10, 12 state championships. Legend. You talk about a legend. Coach Willie West, bona fide. Like coach me, coach my oldest son Chris, coach three of my younger sons, Josiah, Josh, and Mariah. So we got strong connections at Crenshaw High School.
Right on. Wow, that's awesome. What was my next? Did you play with Gary Gaspard?
Gary is younger. Gary was a couple of years younger, so we never played together. Played a lot against him in the summer times, and Gary was one of these late bloomers who, by the time I don't know where he went to college. I saw him play in high school a lot.
Mississippi Valley State, or
and that's he was okay in high school. And then he kind of grew and blew up and got super athletic like after high school. He's one of those dudes that was a late bloomer, but another just terrific person. So but a really fine basketball player.
Yeah, Gary's my guy. That's one of my mentors, man. I want to get him down here with me in Costa Rica eventually.
Yeah.
Great dude, love him to death. I was fortunate enough to have him work with me in China several years back.
Right.
Such a wealth of knowledge that he has, and wisdom. That's what I seek from my elder statesmen, in the world of basketball. And that's also the role I try to, that's the I don't try. That's the role I've taken on, in this stage of my life with the younger players. So,
Well, we've been through so much. I know a lot of your backstory is kind of similar to mine, and things that we've had to battle through and overcome and deal with, and it behooves us, man, to pass on the benefit of our experience. That experience, strength, and hope, as we say in recovery, but pass that on. Whether and it's applicable not only if a guy is dealing with some substance abuse disorder issues, but also just regular life stuff, man. It's just so good for it's a blueprint for living your life the right way, and processing the fears and the thoughts and the frustrations and the hesitations and the procrastination and all that stuff that for me I can fall into. So even at 68 years old, man, every day I got to deal with this. Every day it wakes up and it's like, oh boy, I got this to deal with, that to deal with. How am I going to get through the day? I got to make that conscious contact, man, with my higher power, with the God of my understanding, and it's been working for me, man. Been working for these past 22 years, man, and I'm gonna stay strong with it.
I'm creeping up on 17. September 17th will be 7.
Yeah, God bless you. Yep. I know that's a when you come from the depths of where I've come from in terms of being a slave to alcohol and drugs, and you hear stories like yours. I hear just my own story, other people. It's truly the grace. The grace of a loving and powerful God in my mind that is responsible, but it also is something we need to give ourselves credit for too, for showing up every day, showing up, putting in the work, doing what we have to do to stay on this path, man. That's been so good to us. So God bless you for those 17 years.
Yes, indeed. I was trying to mute my mic while this airplane passed by overhead. Not too far from a small airport.
Hey man, we on this live podcasting. That's how it is, man. It's we do what we got to do.
Yeah, and I had to be out here in the fresh air. A little drizzle right now, a little drizzly, but That's all right. I didn't really appreciate the rain until I moved here.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I never could stand the rain, and you know, in California.
So when they say a rainy season, that means it rains every day, and for that
every
particular
day,
every day you'll
yeah,
get some rainfall. Yeah, that's
every day. If it's only 5 minutes, 2 minutes,
yeah.
30 minutes, you're gonna get it.
Yeah, yeah, I got to
Yeah,
get down to that part of the world. They tell me Costa Rica is beautiful. My son Mariah was just down there, within the last few months or so. Him and his
uh,
fiance, and they had a wonderful time. He's jet lining and hanging out at the Gold Coast. Is there a Gold Coast or somewhere with the
the Caribbean coast.
the Caribbean coast, and
Yeah,
just but had a marvelous time down there. So, yep,
well, yeah, man, I love it. You know, I get a chance to, like I was saying earlier when we were on the phone. You know, we get time off. We take off to the jungle, spend a few days, a week in the middle of the jungle, and then walk, you know, a private path through the jungle to the beach.
yep.
You know, we
So,
get to have our pick. You know, go left to white sand, go right to black sand. You know,
yep,
take a
that's it.
drive, and the beach is covered with seashells.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a beautiful place, man. It really is. Oh, uh, one of my guys has a question for you. The Goob Show. He's out of Pomona, matter of fact. He's
Okay.
asking, how did you avoid the gangs in LA during your time at Dorsey and Crenshaw?
Well, I mean, so when I was in school at Crenshaw in particular, Crips were just getting started, and instead of Bloods, we had Brims. So it was the Crips and the Brims. They were like the Brims were the predecessor to the Bloods, I believe. Now, I don't know my gang history all
Yeah,
that well,
it's
but
true.
that was a rival gang for the Crips, and they were just kind of getting started, but it wasn't as intense as it evolved into by the time my son Chris in the '90s and even in the '80s. It was a lot more. Uh, uh, it's funny, Keith. I'm thinking about that now. I did a book. I'm doing a book called The Crenshaw Chronicles. So I'm writing about
Okay.
a lot of the famous personalities that went through Crenshaw and what Crenshaw High School meant to them. So Daryl Strawberry, Ellis Valentine, Stevie Thompson, John Williams, Kevin Ollie. I can just go on. I mean, just an impressive list. But one of the ladies that I talked to, she wrote a great book called Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Her name is Dr. Joy DeGruy. Get a chance, check it out. Post Traumatic
Okay.
Slave Syndrome. She talks about the impact of slavery and how it has on African Americans today. Mindset and breaking out of just that mentality that can still cripple us at times. But when
True.
I talked to her, Chris, excuse me, Keith, she told me that in 1975, when she was at Crenshaw, this is 2 years after I graduated, it had become just gang central, and
Mm.
that when she had to come to school, it wasn't a great experience because she had to go through this whole police kind of barricade out in front of Crenshaw on 11th Avenue. That they were always the rousted up gang members, and she was like, it was just like going through like a I don't know, lockdown in the military or something. And so I was able to avoid that because it just hadn't gotten that prevalent. Now we did have, our share of mischievous guys that did a bunch of stuff back in those days. When I was at school, the big thing was jumping guys for their black leather coats. This is like in the early '70s when the Black Panthers were the thing. But by the time I got to Crenshaw, the gang presence wasn't that prevalent, and and then it's the old kind of cliche thing about being an athlete and kind of not being pulled into it and being respected because of who you were, and so my guys that I played with myself, I didn't have that kind of an issue. Now we did have guys on my team that who would throw down in a minute, who that was kind of our gang. I remember we were declared ineligible my junior year at Crenshaw. We were undefeated but couldn't go to the playoffs because we had an ineligible player. And so we went to see a playoff game. Fremont played Fairfax. A buddy of mine, late Chris Parker, played for Fairfax. So we saw them play. After the game, my guys were pissed off because we couldn't play in the playoffs, and they were really, really antsy. And so they saw these two guys from Jefferson High School in the green Jefferson Letterman's jacket. Let's get them. Let's jump them. So they went over there talking trash. And I liked these two dudes. I didn't know them that well, but they were always cool in summer leagues and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so So I kind of talked him down. And then this one brother that I knew from Dorsey High School, Jeffrey Riggs from Audubon Middle School, we went to school together. He came over as a peacemaker. Brothers, we don't need to be doing all this. So one of my dudes, I think Kenny Daniels, the guy who was the ineligible player, socked him in the jaw and busted his eye open. And they wanted to stomp him and jump on him. I had to hover over him like, man, come on, he's cool. I went to Audubon with this dude. Yeah. So I was always, and so this is to answer this question, I was always the peacemaker. And so the same night, Keith, same night, I swear to God, same night, we're piled into my 1966 Ford Falcon, like a poor man's Mustang. It's a Ford Falcon. We're driving home from East Los Angeles, Bell High School or somewhere where the playoff game was. These 6 Hispanic dudes pull up next to us, 6 deep. So my guys are hot. They're fired up. Reggie Mims, Steve Woods, Kenny Daniels, they're fired up in my car. And so the Hispanic dudes are looking at us. We're looking at the Hispanic dudes. So my guy next to me, Reggie Mims, my point guard, he's like, what the F y'all looking at, man? Y'all want to get something going? They were like, yeah, pull over. I say, pull over. So they're telling me, Marcus, pull over, man, pull over. Let's get these. So my boy Steve Woods had a knife in the back. He pulled out his switchblade. Yeah, let's get these. Let's pull. I was like, look, man, I'm going home. If y'all want to come back and meet these dudes somewhere and get this shit cracking, y'all can do that. But I'm going home. I don't, we don't need all this stuff. There's been too much going on already. So even though it wasn't gangs per se, there was enough activity going around back in those days. But me, grew up with 2 parents, both God-fearing, church-going, and 4 sisters. I wasn't the real tough guy. I would stand my ground if I had to. But I wasn't going out looking for trouble. And my guys that night were looking for trouble. And I always felt like that was God kind of watching over me, watching over us, because who knows what that Hispanic car full of dudes might have had with them. They might have had a gun. And I might have got shot that night. You just never know what God is protecting you from. So they called me all kind of bitches and punks and all that stuff because I didn't want to fight these dudes. But I'm like, man, I'm going home, man. Y'all want to make an appointment to come back and meet them somewhere? And they're like, oh, you bitch, you little punk. I was like, hey, you call me what you yeah, you call me what you want, man. But I'm going home, bro. I'm out of here. I'm going home. So yeah, that was me.
So after this, while you were at the Shaw, what was the recruiting process like?
Well, it's interesting because at UCLA was the thing. John Wooden, they were in the midst of winning probably 8, 9 in a row, or 8 championships out of 9 years, about 5 or 6 in a row at that point, around 72. There were some schools that loved me. West Coast schools, Cal, and took a recruiting trip to, and Washington State. George Ravlin was the first black coach in the Pac-8 at that time. And so I went up to Washington State and had a great recruiting trip with him. USC, obviously, across town with Bob Boyd. Jim Hefner, I think, was the assistant coach that recruited me there. But once UCLA, so what happened is that UCLA, man, they were hot on the trail of this terrific forward out of Morningside High School, played for Jim Herrick. Jim Herrick, the future UCLA coach, was a coach at Morningside. They were number 1 in the country. We played them in the championship of the Watts Summer Games, so we're getting ready to play them. And so UCLA was recruiting me. They were recruiting Jackie Robinson. This is the forward. Jackie's older brother, Sam Robinson, was an all-city player at Jefferson High School, played for Target, Cal State Long Beach, played in the ABA for a number of teams. And so, but Jackie was this jumping, dunking, muscular, 6'6", about 215 physical specimen. So we're matched up, Keith, playing at Cal State LA. For the Watts Summer League Championship. So Frank Arnold, the assistant coach at UCLA, the recruiting coordinator, he was there. He was trying to talk Coach Wooden into recruiting me. The coach was like, I like Jackie Robinson, his brother Sam. I let him get away to Tark. I don't want to let Jackie get away. So Jackie's our number 1 priority in terms of forwards, that size. And so it's me and Jackie head up. I see Frank Arnold perched up in Cal State LA, outside of the first section of bleachers. I see him up there. And so I'm out there, remember my big afro parted down the middle. I got my black Converse on. I got my Pete Maravich floppy socks. I got some cutoff sweats and my just nondescript blue and gold Crenshaw jersey top with no writing on it, just a number on the back. And so this Summer League Championship. And so we're going at it. And so I wound up scoring like 36 with about 20 rebounds. Jackie, Duncan has been outlawed. Duncan was outlawed in 1967 because of Kareem. his sophomore year at UCLA, the outlaw donkey. So there's no donkey. But Jackie, trying to embarrass me in front of this sold-out crowd, watch Summer League game championship, he tries to dunk on me, Keith. And I go up there and I catch the first one. He gets the ball back, gathers himself. He goes back up, tries to dunk again. I go back up, I catch the second one. And the crowd is just, ooh, ooh. But Frank Arnold was watching. And after the game, he came down, I think, and told my father that, that he was more certain than ever that I should be the guy that they should kind of focus their efforts on. And so they wound up recruiting me instead of Jackie. Jackie wound up with Tark at UNLV. And I think he broke an ankle or tore up a knee or something his freshman year. So he was never quite the same because surgeries in those days were different. But that's how, to me, that was the seminal moment. That's when I was really on UCLA. And then Coach Witten. So Frank Arnold went back, told Coach Witten, you got to go after Marques. So Coach was like, okay, well, I'll keep an eye on him. So we played at Poly Pavilion, UCLA's campus, that following March. That was Summer League. That following March, city championship game, semis against Jefferson. I had like 36. Coach Witten's in the stands. Championship game against Jefferson 2 days later, I had like 27 and 15 rebounds. We won the city championship, and that kind of solidified it for Coach Witten that they should recruit me. But I was like 6'5", 6'5 and a half. Wasn't well defined muscularly, still 215, 220, but a lot of baby fat. And so it wasn't like I was just, you looked at me and thought that projected me to be this first round NBA pick. I was a project. Coach kind of knew it, but I think because my dad was a coach, I had the fundamentals down. I knew how to play the game, had great instincts. I was most valuable player at every league Keith I played in at Sportsman's Park and now Jesse Owens Park in South Central. I always dominated every league. And so even though my body didn't look overly impressive, I had great footwork. I had an up and under move back in those days. My dad just showed me great footwork that allowed me to score efficiently. And that was always my thing. So that's what helped me get to UCLA.
Right on. And that UCLA experience, what was that like for you as now to step on the foot on the campus for the first time as a student athlete?
Oh man, it was it was a mind-blowing experience just to be at UCLA, coming from Crenshaw, and I'm actually writing a screenplay. I do a lot of writing a screenplay called The Last All-American. I was Coach Witten's last All-American, and it's about my experience going from Crenshaw to UCLA and then beyond, and all the things that happened, the drug issues and everything else. But my first day on campus at UCLA, Keith, I'm walking up Bruin Walk, headed to class, and here comes Bill Walton on this bicycle, 10-speed bike. He's speeding. He recognizes me, and he's got these short jeans on with no underwear. So these two big red nut sacks are just flopping all over the place, And he passes by me. Hey, Marques, welcome to campus, brother. I'll see you at Poly today. I was like, okay, man. So that was my first introduction to Bill Walton. All I remember them two big red nut sacks, just like, man. But so then we started playing against each other, and I came to love him so much for the enthusiasm, the joy, the intensity that he played with. He trash talked our first week of practice, Keith, between he and Keith Wilkes at that time, but they blocked every other shot that I took. And and Bill would block my shot and would talk trash. Get that Crenshaw shit out of here. This is UCLA. We don't play that shit here. All that. And I'm just like, oh boy. And so I call home crying. To my mom and dad, and I'm on the phone just teared up. So my father and my mother's like, Jeff, can you talk to this boy? My dad gets on the phone. He's like, what's going on? What's wrong? I said, I can't play here. I'm not good enough. I should have went to UC Santa Barbara like I wanted to with Tex and some of my other buddies, And my dad was like, well, what's happening? I was like, Keith Wilkes, Dad, I can't score on him. He's blocking every shot I take. And if he doesn't block it, Bill Walton blocked it. He's like, Keith Wilkes, he's the best defensive forward in America. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Just keep playing, And eventually I kind of figured him out as we in basketball or want to do. You play against a guy enough times on a consistent basis every day. Now you figure out little head fake here, a little body movement here. I can overpower him there. I can get the deep post up position. And so I started figuring him out. And Keith, I actually wound up starting about I think about 9 or 10 games that year as a 17-year-old freshman. The rematch game against Notre Dame after they broke our 88 game win streak, I started the following Saturday at Pauley Pavilion, June 24th. Excuse me, January 24th, and had like 16 or 17.7 rebounds on national TV, and started a few games after that. And so and so that was my freshman year. Sophomore year, we actually won the national championship. But the sophomore year is a great story because not so great for me, but I was in the greatest shape of my life. That summer, Keith, I'd worked out. We got in some Nautilus equipment in the men's gym at UCLA. They kept it in the towel room. They wanted us to try it as an experiment to see if we liked it. So I'm working out on the Nautilus equipment every day, 4 or 5 machines, leg and upper body. I got this little white dude near Hamilton High School who's a weightlifter, about 5'2". But one of my elementary school buddies, Kevin Stennis, whose family owns Golden Bird Fried Chicken. You ever had some Golden Bird, Keith?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, okay. So his family owns Golden Bird. So Kevin's like, I got a guy that can help you with your vertical lifts. So he brings me over to this little musty gym across the street from Hamilton High School on Robertson Boulevard. Little tiny gym, a bunch of weights and stuff and boxes. So this little guy, white guy with a beard, like a little leprechaun, comes up. He's like, "Yeah, I can help you with your jumping." I was like, "What are you gonna do with my jumping? You're 5'2". He had these boxes about 3 feet off the ground at least, maybe higher. He leaped up on one bound and showed me what he could do. And so he showed me these isometric exercises that I was to do every other day. I did them because I'm obsessive, like you can imagine. I did them every day, 7 days a week. Then I started doing it with the 10-pound weight, the leapfrog to the 10-pound weight, and then with the 20-pound, and probably it's the reason my back hurts today. But I wound up increasing my vertical about 4 or 5 inches that summer, working out so hard. Stadium stairs, the running the sand at the beach, just doing everything. Me and Ed Waters, the head coach now at Crenshaw, Maxine's son, every day, 5 days, 6 days a week, we were out there working. I wound up, Keith, that summer before my sophomore year, killing. In the summertime, all the pros were in town for the Cal State Summer League, and Sidney Wicks, Curtis Rowe, these NBA All Stars. I'm killing it, Polly. I'm 18 years old at that time, and I'm jumping out the gym. My jumper was falling like it never felt before, and I'm ready to go into my sophomore year and become like first team All-American. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that on a Friday before the October 15th practice, I go to Santa Barbara with my oldest son Chris's mother Sabrina to visit my sister Sharon and her husband. They went to school at UCSB. They still live in Santa Barbara. We went to a smorgasbord. I don't know what I ate, but I got sick as a dog, contracted hepatitis, and that shut me down for the first 2 months of that season. And it sapped my strength. I lost about, I went from like 220 to like 198 in about 5 days. So stuff was coming out of everywhere. I'm just I'm just sick as a dog. And the doctor said that I needed to not play that year. I needed the red shirt because of how much weight I had lost in a short period of time. Coach Wooden was coming to see me every day, praying over me, telling me the story about how he got hit by a truck going into his sophomore year, and he was able to bounce back. But my parents, Jeff and Basher, they were resigned to not allow me to give up, to give up on playing that year. And so what they would do, Keith, the doctor said I need to put on some weight before they let me out of the hospital. And so they started smuggling in smothered chicken, smothered steak, rice, greens, gravy, cornbread, peach cobbler, all this great soul food feast, every biscuits for breakfast in the morning, pancakes. And I wound up putting on enough weight where they let me out. I went back and was able to play that year. But the honest to God truth, Keith, is that I never really felt as good condition-wise as I did before I got sick with that hepatitis, and that kind of plagued me for the rest of my career. I always felt a little bit more fatigued than I thought normal, and so but was able to still make the best of it and have a terrific career. So that was my sophomore year, and but UCLA junior year, I had a great year, made the Final Four. Coach Wooden retired. Gene Bartow took over. Senior year, they started the John Wooden Award. I was going to go pro that year, my senior year, signed, sealed, and delivered to Denver with Larry Brown and David Thompson and Bobby Jones and that whole crew. Yeah. And changed my mind after some stuff went down with Sam Gilbert and some other people out at UCLA, and decided to stay at UCLA for my senior year, won the Wooden Award, and the rest is history, as they say. So it's been a real colorful career. Look out for this last All-American series that we're going to have out hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years. So all this stuff will be more documented than what I'm saying right now.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's awesome. And yeah, Jamal's a great guy. Silk,
Yeah, yeah.
great,
He
great
is.
guy. I think the last time I saw him was 2019
Yeah.
in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a group text between myself, Jamal, Bill Walton was a big part of it. Andre McCarter, our point guard on that 75 championship team. Pete Turgovich, the shooting guard on that 75 championship team. Bob Webb, reserve on the great Bill Walton teams of the early 70s. But 9 or 10 of us kind of stay in constant contact, especially basketball season. So, and Jamal is one of those guys, and love him like a brother, and we always have a good time when we're together.
He was the first. I grew up as a Laker fan. I'm from Connecticut originally, but moved to Los Angeles when I was 5. And my mom's boyfriend used to get tickets to the Lakers games. And here goes Kareem Jr. again. We used to get confused even back then as 5 and 6 year olds.
Sure. Yeah.
But Silk was the first guy to really greet me, with kindness and shook my hand, rubbed my head. Just really cool dude.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Cap was my favorite.
Sure.
Cap was my favorite player, but Cap was just Cap.
Yeah.
Cap. But for me, Silk was that dude, man, that really showed me love from those early '80s Lakers teams. Always had a great appreciation for him.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I mean, he's been a mentor, been someone who's always encouraged me. From the time I was a freshman. I think he kind of could see the handwriting on the wall. We go at each other so tough in practice, but it's funny how there's this rite of passage at UCLA, and so I talk about how Jamal and Bill, dominated me as a freshman, but then Silk told me, Keith Wilkes, Jamal told me that he was dominated by Sidney Wicks when he was a freshman. Yeah. I dominated Kiki Vanderway when he was a freshman. It's kind of this rite of passage. The freshmen get dominated by whoever the top forward is on the team that year. But Silk was my guy, and I was so elated, Keith, when I got to the NBA and was able to give him some of it back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now he gave me a lot too. He gave me buckets. Trust me, he gave me a bunch of buckets too. But I was able to kind of match him tit for tat and go at him like that. And man, and I had a personal, like, yeah, man, when I was 17, used to block all my shit, man. I got something for you now. Block this. I'd be like, block this. He'd be like, yeah, block this. Yeah, block this, block that, block this. That crazy looking jumper. So yeah, we gave it to each other. But just one of my best friends in the basketball world.
And you played with Kiki, right on.
Yes,
Kiki, man, Kiki was smooth.
Kiki gave you hit, so Kiki had. So I'm responsible partially for getting Kiki into UCLA, and so the story goes like this. So I played against Kiki since he's 15, 16, Palisades High School. He drive his father, Dr. Vanderway, who's Chris's pediatrician, by the way, when he was 2 years old. And so, but he'd drive his dad's Rolls Royce or Bentley, whatever it was, on campus when he's 16, 17 years old. And so, so I'm playing against Kiki, and Kiki, had the biggest hands, had the quickest first step, thick legs, didn't look like he was overly athletic, but his dad really wanted him to go to UCLA. So Gene Bartow was the coach at UCLA at that time. So Gene Bartow called me into his office and said, Marques, Kiki, Dr. Vanderway, he's been on me. He wants me to offer Kiki a scholarship. And I keep telling my coaches, he can't play at UCLA. He's slow. He's slow. He's not athletic. What do you think? I was like, Coach, look, I've been playing against Kiki since he's 17 years old. I said, I've seen him dunk on more brothers. I've seen him dunk on more black guys than a high school kid ought to be able to. And these are guys who are NBA caliber players. I said, no, I said, Coach, don't be fooled. He can play. He's really, really good. You think so? I was like, I think so. And then he brought him in and started out slowly as a freshman, got more and more time his freshman year. And then after a couple of years, kind of blew up. But man, he had some of the greatest footwork. He was one of the first guys to work with the Pete Newell Big Man's Camp. Yeah. Along with Kermit Washington, Bernard King, a bunch of guys, they'd get together. Now, I didn't do it because I had my own development guy, a guy by the name of Malik Abdul Mansour, who helped Kareem kind of perfect the sky hook. Good friends with Kareem. But Malik and I was one of the first guys in the league to have his own personal kind of trainer that I'd work out with 5 days a week on the track, in the gym. We go to the beach afterwards and boogie board. He thought the salt, yo, man, the salt, he's from Neptune, New Jersey. The salt water, man, is good for like, recuperation of the muscles. So we go out and boogie board out at the beach after the workout. We worked out all day, man, from the morning, go to his crib, smoke a joint, listen to some jazz, go out there and play in the afternoon, the 3 o'clock run, get some shots up at 5 o'clock, then go to the beach after that in the summertime when the sun was out late, and then get into that salt water, man, and just really instrumental in terms of my mindset, my development, and then my skill work also. Really worked with me on my jumper and got all that, got the efficient scoring package, instilled in me, that mindset.
Right. So here we are, make it to the NBA. Drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks, a city that gets cold as hell. It's cold as hell. 5 All NBA selections. What was Milwaukee? What was your initial reaction to Milwaukee?
Hated it. Man, I'm from LA. But here's the deal. At the time, my only frame of reference for Milwaukee was what I saw on TV. So I saw the Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley. Those are the big shows on ABC or whatever it was back in those days. So it looked like a nice enough place. It was close to Chicago. I didn't know back then that the weather is so brutal in the wintertime that it ain't no driving 2 hours to Chicago, for most of the winter. It ain't like I'm going to take a quick trip to Chicago to have a good time 3 days a week. And so you're pretty much relegated to being in Milwaukee. Initially, I didn't like it. It was so cold, especially when the winter. All I had was my LA overcoats, my London fog or whatever it was, my LA overcoats, my thin LA overcoats, and they kept telling me. Lloyd Walton, a good friend of mine, with the Bucks, he was in his second or third year, but he kept telling me. He called me Marcus Garvey after the great African American leader. But he goes, Garvey, you're going to have to get you a thicker coat, bro. That's not going to work out here. I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine, man. I'll be fine. By the time that winter hit, man, it froze my butt off. And there was one story where we used the parking lot of the McDonald's restaurant across the street from our arena. The McDonald's was owned by Wayne Embry, our general manager. So that's where we parked our car. So after a game one night, I'm getting some treatment. I'm late getting out, and it's desolate. There's nobody out on the streets. So I go, it's freezing. It's like one of those. So my first winter, it was like the coldest it had been in Milwaukee in about 25 years. My second winter, they got more snow than they've gotten in Milwaukee in about 30 years. So the first 2 winters were brutal. But this first rookie year, it's cold. It's all get out. So I run across the street, my little London fog, LA overcoat. I put the key into my little white Monte Carlo with the blue top to open it up that I get from the dealer. And the lock won't open. It just stuck. And I'm out there freezing. I'm tripping. I'm looking at my key. I know I got the right key. It just won't open. Fortunately, Lloyd Walton, the same Lloyd Walton, was passing by in this little green 2-seater Mercedes. He rolled down his window. What's up, Garvey? You okay? I said, man, I can't open my door, man. Said, oh yeah. Hold on. So he jumped out of his car. He bought a cigarette lighter. He heated up my key and open up the doors. Yeah, your lock froze. So when that happens, just keep a cigarette lighter with you, heat up your key, and that'll melt the lock so you can open it up. So I had to learn that stuff, man, because I was like a fish out of water back there in Milwaukee. And then, so I'm used to LA, the hanging out at the beach and the blondes and the suntan and the fine sisters and all that. There wasn't a whole lot of that going on in Milwaukee back in those days, Keith. And so that was another real big culture shock. But the longer I was there, I made some good friends, Junior Bridgman, Quinn Buckner. We were all young players coming in together. And so the Lloyd Walton, as I mentioned, but the longer that I stayed there, the more I respected the people there for being true to the city, being reflections of the city, hard work, no nonsense, have a good time in the summer when the weather breaks, but then get back to the grind once the winter comes. And so it's just a rhythm, like every city has. It just so happens that LA's rhythm is kind of a year-round, laissez-faire, party, loosey-goosey. Milwaukee it's just different seasons, different rhythms that you have to kind of tap into. And once I got hold of that, I was fine and met some wonderful people that I'm still friends with today. And that's why I enjoy being back there today. But I came in, Keith, and I averaged almost 20 and 10 my rookie year. Had a great rookie season, and so that got me started. And the NBA game was really a lot easier for me on certain levels than the college game because it was up and down, and I could use my athleticism, and I kind of worked on this mid-range game that served me well, and so I had a lot of success. Then my second year, I worked even harder that summer. Me and Malik Abdul Mansour, and got my jumper really, really, really nice, and I wound up averaging about 26 points a game my second year, making first team All-Pro. Top 5 in the world, I like to say. And then my third year, Don Nelson, my coach, he came up to me for my third year and said, look, I know you average 26. I know you can probably average 28 to 30 this year. But what I want you to do, and please do this for me, is to average between 20 and 22. Play good defense, about 7 rebounds. And, that'll help our team more than you average in 30. And so reluctantly, I scaled back and brought my average down from 26 to like 21, 22 points a game. And people see that and they're like, oh, you must have been on drugs. No, I wasn't on drugs. Yeah. Well, I was on drugs a little bit, but that wasn't the reason. That wasn't the reason why my point reduction had such a drastic downturn. The reason was because my coach asked me to. And I still made all-star teams, still made all-pro teams, was still one of the top. I think the general managers took a poll around that time. He had one guy to pick and to start a team with. I think I won that poll over Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, a bunch of players, because I was a guy that played both defensively and offensively. So, but yeah, it was a great experience. It was a great experience, great guys that I'm still friends with today.
Yeah, and scaling it back, coaches, players for players, at least for me, it was hard for me to adjust to what my coaches wanted, because I knew what my game was, and I thought that I was more valuable if I played my style.
Yeah.
But here I am, in a wrong era, back to the basket dominant big man. And I'm a face up guy.
You had a jumper like that, man. You had the.
Listen.
Wait, I remember you. I remember you now.
Chris didn't tell you a 6'11" 2-man. LA Rockfish.
Okay.
Andre Miller was my point guard.
Okay. Yeah. Andre,
I tried. Was our 3-man at 6. Aaron was what, 6'4", 6'5".
Okay.
As my 3-man, I'm 6'11", playing the 2, coming off of the down. He's lighting it up.
Okay. Who was the coach? Dave. Who was the coach? Dave. Okay. Yeah. Now see, Andre Miller, we tried to steal him when I was coaching Chris for LA Triple Threat. And I tried to get Andre to jump teams, man, because he came to one of our practices. I was like, man, I can get you some. I can't get you no money, but I can get you some shoes or whatever you need. And he was so loyal to Rockfish, and I always respected that about Andre. He was really loyal to Rockfish. I like playing with y'all, but this is my crew here. I've been playing with them for a while, and people don't know how good Andre Miller was, but to know that you were the two guard on that team. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very underrated.
Oh my goodness!
They need to put some more respect on that man's name for sure.
Yep.
And he didn't get out there talking smack. He just went to work. He just went to work, and a beautiful thing. But back to what I initially was going to say, I couldn't make the adjustment. I refused to make the adjustment. They wanted me to be more like DeAndre Jordan, the role he played. Play great defense, get us some blocks, some rebounds, and if you want it, you got to get it off the boards.
Right. Now, who else was on that Clipper team when you were there? Was that the
Stoichkov? My rookie year, Stoichkov, Rankovic, Lorenzen Wright, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
They were ball player. Yeah, they were the centers my rookie year. Then the next year we got Oliver Candy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Candy man. Yeah.
Big Ike Austin.
Now, what was up with Oliver Candy? If you had to put a finger on why he never
had a tremendous workout. He had a tremendous workout. I mean, it was the first time I had been thoroughly dominated.
Right.
And I just felt like everything was just out of whack with me. Like I couldn't get my rhythm. for anything. And he just waxed, man. Look, he tore my ass up. Right? And it was
it's funny.
Jelly Bean that was working us out.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jelly Bean. I said, damn, this dude's gonna be nice.
Yeah. I think
Okay,
we all will.
I'm having an off day, but this dude's still gonna be nice.
Yeah. And
I
he was
appreciate his game, what I saw in that workout. But then laziness.
Okay.
Laziness, and attitude. He had a terrible attitude.
Yeah, I'd read where Kareem tried to show him the sky hook. He resisted that. He number one pick out of number one pick out of Pacific. I mean, everybody, and I say that just to say that his reputation based on that workout. I mean, it was a lot of teams that were taking him number one. I mean, a lot of teams liked him a lot. So I think it was a surprise. Yeah, a surprise for everybody. And there was a guy, Darko Milicic, that did the same thing with the Pistons, I believe, but had this great workout, 7-footer from Europe, could shoot, could handle, and then just never had the inner fortitude to have the kind of success that you would have projected based on what he could do skill wise. And that's Olo Akandi. I've always wondered kind of, it was just too much for it. Probably just too much. Some guys, it's not for everybody. That's what I always say, Keith. It's not for everybody. That smoke, people coming at your ass night in. You're the number one pick every night. And then back then, now the centers back then were that center position being de-emphasized, but was that like still kind of a golden era with the David Rodman. Okay.
David,
okay.
Pat,
Oh, yeah. So every every night.
Can't forget Vlade, Dikembe. We had a lot of there was a lot of heat in that paint.
If you didn't have the heart, and that's when centers back then they'd fight. I mean, back then dudes were squaring all the time. It was like the square up. It's like,
it was a norm. It was a norm. That session that you're talking about, that training session where Cap was trying to teach him the hook shot, I was down at the other end of the court working on my stuff. And Kareem, up to that point, he wasn't messing with me still for whatever reason. And so Mike told him, man, this shit is 50 years old. It may have worked when you played, but it ain't gonna work in today's game.
Wow.
You can't use any of this shit. And I just kind of like, oh, wait, he's talking to Cap like that? Because in my opinion, Cap, that's the GOAT. So I turn around and I'm like, oh shit.
Right. Well, that tells you pretty much all. That tells you pretty much all you need to know. That mindset, not being open and accessible to that kind of that wealth of knowledge that Kareem presents. And even if you're that open, you pretend you are. You don't make him feel Kareem like his stuff is outdated or has no use in today's game. Which I'm not saying Kareem even was impacted a lot by that, but you still show him that respect of who he is in terms of being one of the greatest or the greatest scorer at that time of all time in NBA history. So
it was a great thing for me, only because after that Kareem really started to come mess with me, in the basketball sense as our coach.
Right.
Which was crazy because I had sought that since I was 5 years old. I was always turned away because Cap is just Cap.
Yeah. Now, do you think Kareem would have made a good head coach in the NBA? In all honesty, I mean, I'm just curious. I have no idea.
You know what? I think he could. He's a technical guy.
Yeah, right.
He knows the damn game. So I mean, he was instructing our guards on what to do, and in certain breakdowns and situations. So absolutely he could have been.
I mean, and it's a lot of coaching, as you know, good coaching. I mean, it's managing, like Coach Wood used to say. You handle horses, you work with people. And just how well his ability would have been to deal with the knucklehead factor, that's so prevalent in the league. It's always been there, but over the years, it's gotten progressively, I won't say worse, but guys are just more into speaking their minds and saying stuff like Olo Akandi said back then, and which is not a bad thing. I'm not criticizing it. So I just wonder if someone like Kareem could have dealt with that that enormous
He
knucklehead
had a
factor.
short fuse to that type
You
of stuff.
know,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
he had a
Just,
short fuse
just
to that type of
like
stuff.
I don't need this shit. You know, I'm the greatest
Yeah,
of all times. I don't, you know, you telling me that my stuff is 50 years ago and
yeah.
ain't relevant today, and do I really need this? So yeah. Anyway,
Look, I scored using that hook shot on more than a few occasions. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Another question is, what is it like to be on NBA 2K?
I don't know, man. I ain't never played NBA too. Now, but the thing about that is, to answer the question, 22 Ronan, is that I get more props from having I had like a 96 or 97 rate, whatever that is. I don't even know what that is. But I just know that when people would tell youngsters who I am, and they, oh yeah, he's got like a 97 on NBA 2K. Yeah, he's really good. And
Yeah,
so that's always been a feather in my cap just to have that rating. I don't even know. Can somebody like post what I'm rated now, please? If you're listening to this, let me know what I'm rated now because I have no idea. But it's all good, man. I'm honored just to be remembered and honored that that the NBA 2K people showed me some love. I did a game. Kevin Calabro, the play-by-play announcer for the Sonics, and I, when I worked for Seattle in the mid '90s during the Gary Payton, Sean Kemp era. But we were the first to do like the Microsoft video games and the voices for that. So I've always had a lot of respect for the video games and just been amazed at how they have evolved and how much more real everything is now and how they look
yeah.
and all that. So it's an honor just to be a part of that whole process.
Man, my first character in the video game had a comb over and a long hair.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I
I
said,
mean,
wait a minute, what is this?
yeah,
Who is
yeah,
this? They tried to put freckles on him.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
just bad. It was just
yeah.
bad.
No, I can
The
imagine.
comb over, man. The comb over.
Because you had the big afro rocket for you. I know you had the
Yeah, I
cornrows,
started out
but
small, slow,
sometimes,
and then
yes,
boom.
yeah, sometimes you like you do the blowout move, man, and that thing would be like huge. You're already 7'3". There was the big afro. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that was
love
that
it.
was a look. Yeah,
And that's because, Cap had one back in the day,
yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And so, he was the reason why I wore number 33.
yeah.
I
Sure.
couldn't get it in high school and college because, guys who, were already on varsity at the time, they had
Right.
already gotten it,
Yeah.
so I had to stick with 32 high school,
Yeah.
college, until I
Yeah.
finally got to the league. And
well,
you got
well,
33? Oh, that's
yeah.
mine.
Well, kids, my first game as an NBA player, 1977, playing the Lakers.
Mm,
And so Kid Benson had made some comments in the papers how they asked him, about playing against Kareem. So
wait a minute.
Kid said in the newspaper, I'm gonna play him physical, maybe give him an elbow, see how he responds, but I
Yeah.
don't be physical with him. Kid came out that game, first 2 minutes of the game. I'm guarding Jamal Wilkes, Keith Wilkes on the perimeter. My back's kind of turned. I see the video. Kid hits Kareem with that elbow. All I hear is, that's all I hear. Just a thud. I turn around immediately, and there's Kent kind of crumpling down, going down. And now here's the story. Kareem's bouncing over him. Get up, motherfucker. Get up. Get up, motherfucker. I go up to Kareem. I was like, Kareem, man, he ain't getting up, man. Back off, man. He ain't getting up, man. But he had this look, the goggles, get up, motherfucker, get up, And that was my christening into the NBA.
Wow.
That was my very first regular season game as an NBA basketball player.
Yeah.
What a start!
That's badass because I've seen that
Yeah.
clip. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
how many countless
Yeah.
times, man.
Yeah.
So as soon as
Yeah.
you mentioned the Lakers and Kent Benson, I said, "Oh,
Yeah.
I already know what it is."
Yeah. And so Kent was the number one pick. I was number 3. Milwaukee should have kept Swin Nader, who they traded to Buffalo to get the number 3 pick.
Another UCLA great.
Yeah. They traded Swin. Swin was coming off a season where he'd averaged 15 and 14 rebounds or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they traded him to Buffalo to be able to draft me 3. They wanted to pick Benson 1. Back in those days, my lawyer, David Falk, same David Falk that you know about, but he was working with the Donald Dell and Associates. He was kind of a mid-level associate at that time, but David told my mother, who you see in the background over my poster back there, but she passed away a couple of years back. But he told us in a family meeting, he was like, "Well, Kid Benson's going to go number one because he's white." So my mother told David Falk, "We know he's white. You ain't got to tell us he's white." Yo, man, I was so embarrassed. You know how that is, your mom.
Yeah.
She's going off on this lawyer. We know he's white. You ain't got to tell us that. And but that's one of the reasons the league was looking for more white players. They thought the league was too black at that time, 90+% black, and sponsorship and then corporate involvement was going down. The cocaine explosion was happening. Just getting started around that time, really exploded in the 80s. And so the league was looking for like that great white hope, they called it. That's been around for ages, since Jack Johnson days, but that was what they were saying back then. And they thought Ken Benson would be that guy. And he would have wound up being a better player if he hadn't have gone through what he went through with Kareem, I believe, but still wouldn't have been, a perennial all-star and nothing like that. But it would have been a good solid 15, 16 point, 8, 9 rebound a game guy. But that really, that inauspicious debut that he had at the end of the fist of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar just really, I thought, derail what could have been a really, really solid career. So, yeah.
Man, oh, man. Eventually you made it back home to the Clippers.
Oh, yeah.
I think now, if I'm not mistaken, you had a stop up north as well, Golden State, right?
Well, the Clippers first. Clippers, in 7 years in Milwaukee, 4-time All-Star with the Bucks, and I wanted to come home. And I was just, been away and pretty much accomplished everything in Milwaukee that we were going to accomplish. We got to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple of times. Always ran into either Doc and the Sixers and Moses Malone and Bobby Jones and Andrew Toney and Maurice Cheeks, or the Celtics with Larry Bird and Chief Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale and Cedric Maxwell and that crew. Then the Celtics wound up picking up Dennis Johnson, and it was really a done deal. Sixers got Moses Malone. It was really a done deal. And so I was ready to move. And so Don Nelson arranged a trade for me to come to the Clippers. And he told me, he was like, "Naim, this ain't the Lakers. Now, this is the Clippers. They do things a lot differently than the Lakers out there under Dr. Jerry Buss. It's the Clippers, Donald Sterling. It's a whole different kind of mindset. Just want to prepare you for that." And I still wasn't prepared. I mean, we had Lakers were having training camp in Hawaii and Santa Barbara, staying at the Ritz Carltons. We were staying at the Ocano Lodge out in Pomona. And this is like practicing at Cal Poly Pomona, practicing at the Wine Garden YMCA down on Vermont and Century and Watts. I mean, it was a totally different vibe than what I'd even been used to in Milwaukee and Donald Sterling and that whole situation. Everything that you hear about, you read about with him when I was there was absolutely true. And he had about 5 or 6, 7 different lawsuits out against myself and Norm Nixon and Michael Cage and Don Chaney, the coach, for like $400 moving expense, $500 moving expense. He was on some other stuff, man. And it was just a tough organization. When you don't feel that respect and loyalty from the top, it's hard to go out there and just leave it all out on the floor. Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna keep a little for myself. I'm not leaving it all. So, so we had a good team on paper, myself and Norm Nixon, one of the greatest 2 guards that would have ever played in the league, but he hurt his knee, Derek Smith. Yeah. But here's the story with the Clippers. Talk about the Clipper curse. Now, I was at the beginning of that because my first practice in training camp after getting traded by the Bucks in September, came out to LA, first practice with the Clippers. I think we're at Loyola. I forgot where we were. We're doing a drill where it's a 2-on-1 drill, and the one defender has to reach in and try and deflect the basketball. So I reach in and kind of jar my finger the first time. And I was like, "Oh man, this is weird. This is dangerous." I tell Brad Greenberg, our assistant, somebody gonna get hurt doing this. This is how we do it in LA. I don't care what you guys did in Milwaukee. This is what we're doing here. All right. So my next rotation, same thing. I'm playing defense. I reach in. Rory White is the offensive player, and I jam my 5th little finger on his like chest or whatever it was. Got caught up in his jersey, but I wound up breaking my hand, breaking the 5th metatarsal bone in my hand. Next guy behind me, Derek Smith, he reaches in with his left hand, breaks his little finger on his left hand.
Oh,
Finally, they stopped the drill after that. But that was kind of the beginning. So we started out with two of our best backcourt guys. Derek White as a 2 guard, me as a 3, with broken digits. I sat out, Keith, about 2 weeks, and my hand wasn't healed. Tried to come back and play with a broken hand. My agent, Willie Knowles, the great Willie Knowles, passed away a couple of years ago. But he tried to tell me to sit out for a month, 2 months, be absolutely healthy. But I'd gotten traded. I want to come out to LA. I want to make a big splash. And so I came back before I was ready. And every time I get hit on that right hand, it's my right hand, it would just set me back. And so I wound up shooting about, I don't know, average 16, 17 point shot, about, I don't know, 40 something percent. It's the first time I ever shot below 50 in my career, but it was because of that broken bone. So I had a very, very tough start. Second year, made the All-Star team. Had a great year with the Clippers, averaged 20 a game. Derek Smith blew his knee out, so he couldn't go to the All-Star game. He would have been an All-Star. He and Michael Jordan had a great battle my second year in the league, 1985, 86. I think Jordan, maybe his rookie year, but they had a great battle at the sports arena. But I wound up making the All-Star team. Then third year is when I hurt my neck. Running into Benoit Benjamin after I got a rebound. Ralph Lawler, our announcer, said, "That's the highest I've seen Marques Johnson get up in years." And then I turned to push it up the floor, and there's Benoit Benjamin. The last thing I remember, Keith, is 2 double zeros. I see those as I look up, hit my forehead right on his chest, and it snapped my neck back. And I'm actually paralyzed. I can't move my upper body for about a good 3 to 5 minutes. I'm just locked and frozen on the floor. And they have to carry me out on the stretcher, man. And that was pretty much a done deal. And the Clippers sent me through the ringer, like, we know he went through drug rehab a couple of years ago, and then we suspect he's using drugs now, and so we're not going to pay him his contract. And I wound up paying about $500,000 to a lawyer to get out of that whole legal morass of stuff that I got involved in with them, and it was just a nightmare. It was one of the worst years of my life. But that was hurt my neck, Keith, November 20th of 1986. My son drowned in May of 1987. So, man, you can imagine just kind of the mindset I was in. Career over, son drowned, and I tried to anesthetize those emotions as much as possible daily with drugs and alcohol, and that's when I really, really fell into a dark space. But fortunately, my mom praying for me, my support group, my friends, and everybody kind of checking in on me, man. I was able to come back, and here's the story. Here's one of the final stories, man. And then I gotta run a little bit after this. But one of the final stories. So I'm out 2.5 years. I've gone to different specialists around the country. You can play, you can't play. You get hit on your neck again, you might paralyze yourself for life. So I'm real, just a lot of trepidation about playing. I go out and work out at UCLA's track with a guy named Milan Tiff, world record holder in the triple jump. He was a guy that was married to my ex-wife's sister. So I've known him since I was a freshman. And so I'm working out with him all summer. I'm working out with him, James Ingram, great singer.
The singer,
James Ingram every day. Magnificent Monty Q, this DJ in LA. He's out there every morning, a couple other people. And I wound up getting in great shape. It's like a 2-month workout. Every day it's a different run. We're doing sprints, we're doing jumps, we're doing all kind of great stuff. And I get in great shape, better shape than I wanted to get in. And still doing my thing at night, but I'm there every morning. And so I start playing with Magic and Vlade and James Worthy and a bunch of the Lakers at the men's gym. And I'm playing so well, Magic comes up to me and says, "Man, what you trying to do?" I was like, "I don't know. What do you mean?" He's like, "I mean, you look good. What are you trying to play again?" I was like, "I don't know, man. What you think?" He's like, "Yeah, nah, you can, you can play. You can play for somebody." So I call up Don Nelson and tell him that I want to have him take a look at me. He flies me up to Oakland. I work out with Chris Mullin and Mitch Richmond and Tim Hardaway was a rookie. And wound up making the team and stayed with them until we had a bunch of injuries. And Nelly had to wind up letting me go in December. Went over to Italy, finished up, and so was able to get some closure. Is my point, some closure on my basketball career. Had been out 3 years, and I come back, and I was 33 at the time I came back, and I was always kind of fearful of getting that neck hurt again. So I wasn't as aggressive as I normally was. So, I wasn't the same player. And it's funny because Nelly had told me that, he was going to sign me and he planned on starting me. But obviously Rod Higgins, who was my competition at the small forward, he didn't get the memo because he was out there waxing my ass every day in practice. I teased Rod about that. Said that's supposed to be my starting spot, but Rod wasn't letting it go. So Rod wound up starting. I came off the bench, and but it turned out to be a good year because I was able to get some closure, play again, and wound up in Italy and averaged 25 a game over there, and drank and ate my way out of Italy after about 7 or 8 months. So it was all good.
One last thing before you get out of here.
Okay.
I'm going to my car, get my gun. There's always from a movie, from a program that sticks with people, throughout generations. And your scene in White Men Can't Jump is one of them.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And we had so much fun doing that. Now, that character, Raymond Dickens, was the character in the movie, but he's based on a real guy by the name of Reggie Harding. And I actually wrote a screenplay about Reggie, did a voluminous amount of research on him 3 or 4 years ago, and wrote a screenplay called Hard, the original bad boy. He was drafted by the Pistons straight out of high school back in those days. Sat out a year or something, but didn't play college. Came straight to the Pistons. He gave Bill Russell like 27 and 15 rebounds, gave Wilt 25 and 17, had a great rookie year, but he got addicted to heroin and just couldn't shake that addiction. And so he never fulfilled the enormous potential that he had. And the story with him that they would tell you when you got to the NBA, I don't know if they probably didn't do it by the time you got there, but when I got there, it's one of the stories they would tell you. It was about this 6'10" brother, 6'11" guy from Detroit who goes into a liquor store, puts on a mask, and tells the guy to give him his money. And the guy says, "Reggie, I know that's you." And Reggie Harding allegedly said, "This ain't me." And that's the story. This ain't me. The only 6'11", 7-foot black guy walking around the neighborhood trying to stick up the liquor store. So that was a story that they would tell the young players. And so when this character came about, Ron Shelton wrote the screenplay. I came in and auditioned for it. Yeah, and it was just it was an honor to be able to be on the same set with Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson, and some of these other great actors. And so we had a ball, man. White Men Can't Jump was a ball. And I threw that little Mike Tyson. Nah, this ain't Raymond. That was kind of my little Mike Tyson thing, man. And when I did that, Ron Shelton, the director, he was just like, this is gonna be a classic. This is gonna be a classic. That was a great add-on on your part. So, and taking a step further, I was always into drama. So I played Little Abner in the play Little Abner. I played Conrad Birdie. This is before UCLA. Conrad Birdie in the musical Bye Bye Birdie. So I was always really in a theater arts major at UCLA. And so this was always something that I wanted to do. I prepared myself to do, Keith. So when this came about, I had taken acting lessons with Mark Harmon and some other people that were in the same class while I was playing in the NBA. And so when this came about, I was in the right place at the right time and was able to knock it out. And I just did a remake of it with this guy by the name of Lethal Shooter. And he posted it online, and it got, I don't know, it's still getting like views, like 50, 60, 100 views every day. And so, we still have a good time with it, man. So I don't mind that at all. If that's what I'm known for, so be it. A lot of people don't get known for anything, so it's all good.
Again, man, it was a great pleasure to have you here. I thank you so much. Very humbling to have you here, man. And tell Chris to get at me. Tell Chris.
I will. I'll do that, man.
I need you to do me a solid, if you would, please. The big fella, O'Neal. Just tell him that I need to talk to him about something.
Okay.
If possible.
Okay. Yeah. If I we cross paths every once. You know how that is.
Yeah.
But we'll do. Okay.
Absolutely. But thank you again. Continued blessings to you.
Same to you. And good luck on the podcast.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, brother.
All right. Much love. All right, everybody. Here we go. Thank you guys so much for tapping in with me today, man. Please, like, share, and subscribe this. We're going to make this thing do what it do. I'm going to always bring somebody that's got some kind of substance, people that y'all are familiar with or know of. You feel me? Whether it be music, arts, entertainment, or sports, we're gonna always keep the content original. So Much appreciated. I appreciate y'all, man, posting up with me. Y'all stay blessed.